Hey, today I'm here to tell you not to read the news. Why do I say this, you ask? Well, I used to read the news every day since I was 9 years old. I read the BBC, CBC, Toronto Star, New York Times, Al Jazeera, and Financial Times. Arguably, Financial Times was the best one, but they're all useless to you. Why are they useless to you, ask? Well, it used to be that when I would tell people, oh, I read the news, it was, I thought it was perceived well. I thought it means that you're someone who can spot opportunities, that you're someone who's informed about what's going on in the world. I thought it meant that you are capable of, I don't know, being a learned person, having a good idea of what's going on, making good, rational decisions. It was associated to me with being educated, intelligent, and being rational, making good decisions, being a good, productive person. Okay, well, then I read this book last year called Don't Read the News by someone named Rolf Dobelli. Okay, what did this book open my eyes to, you might ask, right? This book opened my eyes to four things, right? And let's start off actually with a broader perspective. What is news? News is an event. News is an event that happens. There are technically, and also just literally, just true, there are an infinite number of events in the universe. News can also be meta news. It can be news about the news. And it can also be news about the news about the news, and so on and so on. So, there are actually an infinite number of infinities of potential news items, right? So then there comes the logical point where you need to choose which news item to serve. Now, you might be thinking, if you defend the news, you might be thinking, well, it's the one that matters most to most people. But that's clearly just not true, right? Because if that was the case, what would be in the news would be very different from what's in the news. You would never once hear about an individual in the news. You would basically only hear about, like, oh, there's a major event here, there's a major event there. Uh, there's there's something going on in your local community, right? And let's just think about like what actually impacts you in your life when it comes to the news. Well, it would be something like your relative telling you, "Oh, your brother just got a new job." This is going to impact many decisions in your brother's life, in your life, and it will in like a general sense like improve you to know this information. Knowing this information will allow you to pick who's going to host Thanksgiving dinner. It will allow you to decide what kind of Christmas gift to get. It will allow you to know who to go to if you would like to talk about a specific business topic or something like that, depending on the job, depending on how much money it pays, depending on the satisfaction your brother has with the job. This has a lot of impact in your life, and the news will never tell you about it. What does the news tell you about? Well, the news tells you what the people who edit and publish the news want you to believe. So this might be the idea that Canada is a state, as an example, like a nation state. Um, Obviously, the Prime Minister makes a good amount of money, has a good amount of power from there existing a concept of a state called Canada, right? And so does the all the secretaries in the civil service that are really high up. So do all the cabinet ministers. So do all the members of parliament, and they happen to fund the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. But even then, I mean, who funded the election campaigns for all these people, right? The major telecoms companies, the major grocers in Canada, the major banks, the major insurance companies. So they too have their own news agencies in Canada, Global News and uh, similar, Globe and Mail. So, in effect, all the news that you hear is an attempt to frame your worldview, right? It's an attempt to frame what you think exists, because there is no Canada around me. There's no such thing as a prime minister. There's no such thing as a Ministry of Health. There's no such thing as a Ministry of Defense. There are only people. There are only clan-like structures that exist in any human society that control certain levers of power. And the news's job is not individual issues. It is to frame your worldview, okay? And it's not to your benefit, right? Because it's the power of association, right? It's like if you believe that a nation exists, then there's an attribute, right? There's good and there's bad. If you believe a nation is good, then you will defend the nation. You will pay your taxes. You will be diligent. You will work for the nation. If you are against the nation, if you think the nation is bad, you will oppose the nation. You will try and take down the nation. You might engage in like proto-terrorist or like terrorist activities, and you will generally, you will do that kind of thing. If you have a neutral attitude on the nation, then you will operate within its confines. You will not good or bad, but a nation's a nation, and a nation, has all these qualities to it, like it has a border and stuff like that. So you'll stop at the border checkpoint on your way out the border. You'll use its currency, stuff like this, right? So no matter what your opinion is on the nation, if you believe there is a nation, you will operate a certain way. Your habits and behaviors are being trained by the mass media, by the social media, by all the media, right? Because they're all just different shades of the same fundamental thing, which is that the information that you personally have access to is that which can improve your life. That which is imported to you and picked as an important event is just an attempt to manipulate you. It has no impact on you. Now, there's so many subtopics you could go with it, but I'll just do one example. I'll come back to this in the future, and I'll prove to you 4 things. Number 1, if a news story exists, you have no way of judging the veracity of any of the information or contextualizing it in any way. And this is plainly true. I mean, if you have ever been a part of something that has become a news story, you will know that that news story is just completely false, right? It's never the truth. It's always much more complicated, if not outright, just the facts are different than reported in the news. The news is an advertising gimmick. It's the idea of, if you consume information from me, it will make you smarter and intelligent and informed, and it will make you a good person. That's the fundamental idea of the news. And it's the same on social media too, right? Social media is a little bit better in that it's more diffuse, but fundamentally, all these diffuse entities, are they you? Are they serving your interests? No. They're trying to get you to serve against your interests. At best, there is some mutual value. But if there is something that has mutual value, you will find it in your own life, okay? You do not need to pick it in the news. Okay, so that's the first thing. You have no way of judging the veracity of anything in the news, or judging it in comparison to other things, or contextualizing it. And number 2, I will show that even if you can judge its veracity and you think you have a good grasp of things, that this information is completely useless to you. Okay, number 3, even if this information is useful to you, and you can fully verify every single fact and contextualize it, even then, the information is not actionable in any specific way. And after that, the last thing I will prove, the last one down, is that even if you can verify the facts, even if it is useful, even if it is specifically actionable, it is not actually better than the information you will have arrived at should you not have consumed it in the news. And I will sort of differentiate here the idea of research versus just consuming the news. Okay, so let's pick a story. Let's pick this story, okay? Trump is thinking about announcing tariffs on Canada. First of all, let's start at the beginning. Is he thinking about announcing tariffs on Canada? How do you know that? How do you know that? How do you know that? First of all, how do you read his mind, right? How do you read this guy's mind? Okay, maybe you think I'm being obtuse. Okay, so he said that he would. Okay, how do you know he's not bluffing you? Art of the deal. Okay, even if you think he might be bluffing you, How do you know it's not like a double bluff? How do you know that he said those words and like did the reporter misconstrue it? Did he write those personally? Did a staff member write those? Did it come across the wrong way? There's so many variables here. Who is involved? Who who benefits from telling? Because the information, right? It's not free to give you this information. Who benefited from giving this information to you, right? What's going on, right? So I would argue it's not really possible to say what he's thinking about. All right, number two, this tariff will not have any impact on your life whatsoever. Let's say that as a result of this tariff, your grocery prices increase by $500 or something, right? I mean, I think that's a high number, but that essentially does not have an impact on your life if we're just being honest about it. I mean, certainly it does have an impact more than some scandal or some war somewhere very far away, but even this thing, which is supposed to be like very close to home, does not really impact you. I mean, you can talk about it on a macro scale, sure, okay, but you are a human being. You do not operate in the macro scale. You operate on the short term. You operate on what's real. You operate on what's now. So it does not even impact you right now. But let's say, sure, the $500, it really matters, okay? It really matters, right? And, I would argue, hey, you have all this time to be reading the news. Why don't you pick up an extra job? You'll make a couple thousand more. You don't need to worry about the tariffs anymore. But $500, right? Okay, is it specifically actionable? Do you know any of the actors involved? Do you know Trump? Do you know any of Trump's assistants? Do you know anyone in the Canadian government? Do they take are you an advisor? Do they take your insight? Do you work in trade policy? I mean, do you do anything with this information? Like, can you act on it at all? Can you act on this information whatsoever? What? You can send someone a letter? You know, that letter, I mean, what, you can go organize a protest? I mean, I think your time, you should value yourself. It's worth at least a few $100s, right? I think a day for your time. So at this point, the cost of the tariff versus the amount of time you're spending is not really worth it, right? So clearly, this news item, which is meant to really hit close to your heart, has no impact on you whatsoever, right? And it's not, even if it does impact you, you can't do anything about it, okay? And even if all that's true, you don't know if the information's true, okay? And keep in mind, this is like he's thinking about it, not even that he's doing it. Even the story that he is doing it is useless. But you know what? We'll see why with the fourth layer down, the last layer, okay? Let's say the news story now is like he is doing it, okay? The last thing is that even if this information is true, it's impactful, it's actionable, is it actually better than the information you will have received from not the news, from the real news, which is the events that you experience, okay? So if you go to the grocery store and you see that the groceries are a lot more expensive, naturally people will talk about it. You can talk to the grocer. You can talk to someone else. You can be, hey, were these eggs always this price? Was this always this price? Right? And someone's going to tell you, they're going to tell you, hey, look, there's a new 30% tariff. That's what's happening. And you know what you're going to do? You're going to be like, are there any cheaper eggs? Okay? And you're going to make one of three decisions. If there's cheaper eggs, you'll pick the cheaper eggs. If there's if there's no egg that is like within your price range, you're not going to buy eggs, okay? If you still want to buy eggs and there's no alternative, then you'll just pay more for the eggs. It's really one of those three things. And did reading in the news that there was a tariff, did that actually impact your decision whatsoever? And I could go into so many things. I don't want to make this too long, but people have so many essentially copes, okay? And they might tell you, oh, but what if there is a war going on? Don't you want to know if there's a war going on? They'll tell you if there, you know what, your friends will tell you if there's a war going on, okay? There's essentially nothing to be gained by letting your mind be filled with associations that you have no control over. Like, as a human being, right, you should be living to optimize your own life. And these constructs, this idea of there being a state, a nation, ministries, responsibilities, this, that, whatever, this is meant to sort of shackle you a little bit, right? What you actually want to do is you want to look out for yourself, your family and friends, your own health, your own wealth, okay, and your own legacy. You don't want to be looking out for other people's health, wealth, and legacy by reading the news, because that's what you're doing when you allow these people to do this, okay? And sort of a topic for a different video, but this applies to all sorts of news. Trade journals, scientific journals are simply the establishment science or the establishment companies' propaganda for the smaller companies. You're not going to get ahead by knowing what's in the trade journal. That's a fact, okay? If you read like even an equity research report, okay, it's an advertisement for the investment bank, okay? If you read, what else could you possibly read? If you read a local news story about your mayor, okay, your mayor doing something, you don't know why they gave you that information. This stuff is not coming to you free, okay? And people think that they're rebels, okay, going on social media and taking a very contrarian, anti-establishment view. But quite frankly, if you accept the existence of a state, if you accept the existence of certain titles, certain ministries, certain things like the army, if you accept their existence, if the media, either by opposing or if you oppose or support anything that the media talks about, you are being manipulated through social media as well. If you're spending your time thinking about conceptions, your mind's a neural net. When you put these ideas into your brain, it doesn't matter if you're for them, against them. It doesn't matter if you're skeptical or rational. They impact how you think, and they frame your worldview. They frame what is possible, and they frame what is impossible. Okay, so there's nothing that can be gained by allowing yourself to just be like fed information right through your eyes and ears all day from the Matrix. And if you're plugged in, like reading the news, watching social media all day, you're in the Matrix, okay? You're in the Matrix right now. Stop. Shut this off right now, okay?